In July, I presented at a international dog training conference about how we can earn dogs' trust. This is very important to know, especially when dealing with fearful or feral dogs or dogs that are a bit aloof. The most important component to my no-centric system and fearful dog is earning the trust of the dog. If dogs trust you, they will follow you and trust the situations you put them in much easier than if they don't. So why is trust so important? Without trust in the handler, one cannot achieve a foundational need of safety. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs for humans, safety is right above food, water, and shelter. After that are other enriched needs. If the dog doesn't feel safe with the person and trust that person, then they cannot really achieve the other higher needs very well. A lot of dog training skips over the safety needs. Which is trust, and goes right to other training systems such as obedience, rules, structure, enrichment, such as play and toys. Often, the trainer or the dog's companion forgets that the dog doesn't trust them yet. So that attempt at enrichment or training or whatever it is isn't going to be as strong as it could be if the dog trusts the human first. Building trust with a dog actually saves time as well, because once trust is built, all other training goes so much faster than if the dog doesn't trust you in the first place. So what is trust in a dog-human relationship? To figure this out, I did some research into how to build trust between dogs and humans, and there is very little information about how to actually do that. So I looked to guidance about human-to-human trust building and came up with a little definition. Trust is a bond where the dog knows you will not hurt him, will actively protect him, and not put him in harm's way. The dog knows you have his best interests at heart, therefore he will follow you everywhere. So the very important part of this is actively protect him. We as humans do so many things that tell dogs we cannot protect them, and we are unaware of what's going on in our environment. This is according to a dog. In this talk, I'll go into how dogs communicate that they are a pack and they will protect each other to each other. And it will probably become apparent of how much we fail at this as humans. The other thing is the dog knows you have his best interests at heart. It's not what you want from the relationship, it's what's best for the dog. We also need to identify what trust is not. Trust is not a behavior, it's a state of mind. We cannot train dogs to do behaviors and expect them to trust us. Those two are completely independent of each other. In a recent workshop I taught, we had feral dogs going in and out of cars for dried liver treats. While this was great, the dog was doing the behavior we were needing and asking the dog to do. That doesn't mean the dog then trusts us to follow us anywhere, for us to touch the dog or lift the dog up into the car, any of those things. We were merely training a behavior that we needed the dog to do with treats at that time. This isn't necessarily bad, but it's really important to know whether you're building a behavior or whether you're building trust, or both, because you can build both at the same time depending on how you build that behavior. A lot of training methodology for fearful and feral dogs relies solely on building behaviors, such as targeting a hand or targeting a stick. This does nothing to build trust between the handler and the dog, except for the fact that the dog knows the person isn't going to hurt them at that point in time when they have the treats and the stick that they're being asked to target, for example. And so then when those things go away, the dog doesn't have anything to base their relationship on, and so usually they'll revert to some fearful behavior. So that's where my no-centric methods come into play. They build trust. So I'm going to the very base level of the relationship between the dog and the human. A lot of times recently I'm seeing the word relationship thrown around, and to me, what that means, relationship of the dog to me. So what that dog thinks of me, it isn't what I'm getting from the dog. There's quite a few people that I trust, and I know they're going to show up for me and be reliable, that maybe aren't going to be my best friend. So don't go get those two things confused either. So a dog may like a person just fine, but that dog may not really trust that person to protect it when it comes down to it. So we have to ask ourselves, how then, if none of those things really build trust, how do we build trust with our dogs? And this is where I always tell people, I'm like, look at what dogs do with each other. Dogs are your greatest guide to how to connect with your dog, and way better at it than people are. A lot of times people always look to other people to guide them in their relationship with their dog. But I encourage you to also look at your dog and watch dogs interact and learn how they interact with each other, form social groups, how they form trust with each other. I happen to have fostered dogs for the past 16 years. I've had approximately 300 dogs come through my house in that time, plus my own dogs. And I have integrated those foster dogs into my home completely. So they do not live as board and train dogs or training dogs. They're in my house with my family. And so I've gotten to watch a lot of different dogs interact with each other in my yard and in my house. And I've learned that they build trust by doing a few things. But before I tell you how dogs do build trust, I just want you to look at these photos I made on ChatGPT and ask yourselves, is this how dogs build trust with each other? Have you ever seen a dog give another dog a treat to build trust with that dog? Very likely the answer is no. They may share food, they may share bones, they may share toys, but they're not going to go up to a strange dog and just give the dog a treat to try and get that dog to like them. Yet we as people think this will somehow win over dogs. And I think it's one, because we feel a little insignificant, maybe not worthy, and that we are not enough to have that dog follow us and trust us without some kind of additional bribery or reward. And two, I think we're losing the ability to really understand animals and how they work as a social pack, and even how we work in a social pack with our own kind. And dogs can help us regain that knowledge. We just have to watch them. And three, believing a dog only forms trust with someone based on giving it rewards is seriously underestimating the dog's intelligence and its need to belong to a pro-social group. Dogs belong to packs all over the world without them giving each other treats. So how do dogs earn trust? For this, we're going to look to the dogs that have been through my household and some examples. So one major component of dogs trusting each other is that they know the other dogs in the group have their back, and they're there to protect them, and they're looking out for safety and danger just like they are. And here is a group of my dogs in my yard, and you can see that in this picture they are all facing a different way. They're relaxed, enjoying the sunshine in the yard, but they're also looking out for anything that may pose a threat, or maybe even something interesting to the group. And we all know what dogs do if something does pose a threat is one of them sees it and barks, and they get up and they all go together to check it out. I didn't place the dogs in this arrangement. I took the photo because I was so interested in them facing each direction in the yard, north, south, east, and west. So in addition to looking out for possible threats and danger with each other, they also protect another dog that may feel a little bit more insecure. So Lucy with the brown patch is new to my house, and she's very insecure at this point. And my permanent resident, Chardonnay, is allowing Lucy to feel a little more secure by being in front of her, and in front of Chardonnay is the opening to the rest of the yard. So Chardonnay at this point is helping Lucy feel better by putting herself in between Lucy and any potential threat that might come by. Here, Chardonnay, the white dog, is putting herself in between Annie, the brown dog, and Tipton, the pointy-eared dog. At this point, Annie was getting quite old, and she had a toy or something that she wanted to keep, and Tipton was showing interest in it. And Chardonnay laid down in front of Annie, not trying to get what Annie had, but actually facing Tipton and telling him to leave Annie alone. So again, Chardonnay was protecting Annie. Here's a picture of two more dogs. Again, Chardonnay is looking one way and the brown dog is looking the other. And again, they're just outside enjoying the yard, but you can see that if something happened that alerted either of them, the other one is right there. And they can also see each other looking the other direction, and they're aware that the other dog is looking the opposite direction that they are. Here's some more pictures of dogs in the yard. You can see Ryder and the black puppy are both looking out my fence at something moving, probably a rabbit. They're both within each other's peripheral vision. They're both aware that each other is there, backing each other up. How many times do we back up our dogs when they're concerned about something and let them know that we're acknowledging it, we're aware they're concerned, and that everything's okay? Here's a picture of Hawkeye, the black dog, and a puppy. Hawkeye was a protector, especially of puppies, and the puppies all knew this and felt very secure being next to Hawkeye. He was always very gentle with them, and they would often lay next to him because he had the air about him that he was going to keep them safe. If you're anxious or nervous or fearful, your dog cannot feel safe around you because you are actually a liability to the pack. They need to have a stable guardian that they know will keep them safe from harm. Here's another photo of my dogs inside, and you can see they are all within each other's peripheral vision, and they're all looking out the door. There might even, I don't know what was out there, there might have been a noise, or maybe the neighbor dog barking, or even a bird or a squirrel. But you can see they are all aware of what's going on, and they're showing each other they're aware by getting up and looking at the same thing, and probably trying to use their nose a little bit too. Here's another picture of Chardonnay and Lucy. At this point, my dad and I were working on a shed, and we were using some power tools and making a ruckus, and Lucy was a bit concerned about that, so she was laying down in the corner, and you can see Chardonnay went and laid right in front of her in a way to tell her, like, hey, Lucy, I got it, it's safe, and I'm gonna be here to protect you and reassure you. 3 dogs on a playground set, and you can see they're all looking out kind of in different directions, and each of them knows that each other is looking out and figuring out what's going on in the landscape below them. Here's a video of 3 dogs on a walk, 2 of my own and the Shih Tzu is a foster dog. You can see my dogs find something or hear something interesting, and what they do is pause and look together. They don't keep walking. They all stop and look. They all know each other is aware there's something to look out for, and they all assess the situation, and after they assess it and sniff and look, they move on. So when I'm on a walk with my dogs and they see something like this, I join them in doing this. I stop, I look, I sniff, try to be in their peripheral vision, and then I'll say, it's okay guys, come on, let's go. So remember, if you're not aware of your environment, there's no way that you can protect your dogs. So if we walk through the environment oblivious to what's going on around us, our dogs think we cannot protect them. If we're wearing headphones or distracted or, texting or listening to a podcast, we are not as aware of what's going on in our environment. Plus, it's a great time for us to unplug and de-stress along with our dogs. Here's 2 dogs in my yard, and you can see Tipton is actually elevated on a platform to have a better view of what's going on in his environment. And the cattle dog is laying down, but you can see they're both very alert and aware of what's going on. So if your dog just sits in the yard and seems like they're doing nothing, they're not really doing nothing. They're actually watching out for what's going on in the neighborhood. Here's my dogs, and they hear something outside the fence, probably a horse, and they start barking and running up and down along the fence.
I just heard horses.
You can see how the other dog is aware that the second dog is there with him, supporting him. How many times as humans do we sit there and just yell at our dogs like, Fluffy, shut up, come inside.
Coming up to our fence.
If that's the case, the dog can't rely on you to help him whatsoever, because you're not a participant in actually guarding the property. And you can see here, they're both next to each other and looking out the same direction, and they're also using their nose when they're doing this. So what I have found is that if I actually get up, go look at what they're concerned about, maybe make a sniffing noise, and then tell them, come on guys, it's okay, they'll actually come inside way easier than if I just ignore them and yell at them to come in. So again, my two dogs in the yard seeing something, and because I'm recording this and my other dog heard the barking, he came to see what's going on. He's looking out the window to try and ascertain if there's something he needs to pay attention to help his fellow dogs. Another major component of dogs trusting each other is mirroring each other's sniffing behaviors. So here, Tipton is brand new to my yard, and you can see Annie is sniffing, and Tipton's also sniffing with her. Dogs greet each other and get to know each other this way all the time. So here's Chardonnay and Hawkeye, and you can watch them as they go through the yard. They're on leash, but we're not really inhibiting their actions. The leashes are just there in case of safety. But you can see that Chardonnay will sniff something, and Hawkeye pretty much follows her around and sniffs the same thing. So this is how dogs get to know each other, but they also then understand that each dog then is aware of their environment, which goes back to the safety. Here's another video of Chardonnay and a fearful dog. And this little dog didn't want to walk on leash at first, but you can see she's following Chardonnay. And Chardonnay is pretty much ignoring her and just sniffing things in the environment. And little Ninka is so interested. She's like, okay, Chardonnay, I'll follow you. And you can see here she's following of her own free will, which is building a lot of trust between her and Chardonnay. And here's some more dogs at a park. And the white dog Lucy took a long time to sniff in the park. And this was before I really put together the sniffing stuff that I'm doing now. I would have encouraged her to do so much sooner, but she eventually did start sniffing with Annie and Wafer in the park. And you can see here, they just follow each other around sniffing. And I'm going to show you guys how I incorporate this into my training the next video. But right now I just want to illustrate how dogs earn trust with each other. And so here Ryder is the resident dog and Kenna is the new dog. And you can see here that Ryder is walking around sniffing the yard, and Kenna is pretty much just following him around, and they're both having a good old time. So again, encouraging dogs to do their natural behavior, which is sniffing, walking around, checking out the environment in a way dogs do, allows the dog to trust the other being doing that with them. And again, this is works very, very quickly with fearful and feral dogs. Here Ryder checks under the porch, Kenna checks under the porch. And here's two dogs. They're not related. The one on the left is mine, and the other brindle is a dog that's from a hoarding case. And you can see they're navigating this park both by sniffing things together. Now, this also allows dogs to be close to each other in non-conflicting ways. So neither one of them is facing each other, and they're both walking side by side. So it's very non-confrontational. Often as people, we want to get in the dog's face. So, and here's some more coyote poop with the little Shih Tzu. Again, you can see how the dogs are all mirroring each other and doing what each other is doing, which is a prime way to build trust among dogs and people. The black dog has found some critter in my drain pipe. She's a little hesitant, but you can see Ryder is right in there with her investigating what she found. This is a little exercise in the house I often do with fearful dogs. So I put some things out I was using in the bathroom that the Chihuahua seemed interested in. And I just set them on the floor. And you can see here that Tipton goes to check them out, and the Chihuahua follows his lead. So with this Chihuahua in particular, I'm trying to get her to use her nose because she really doesn't do it a lot. And that's not normal dog behavior. So I'm trying to address the cause of her being fearful and shut down a bit, which is her not using her nose. My dogs, Tipton and Shiloh, were all chasing some tracks in the snow, and the snow offers me a great advantage because I can actually see where the coyote is. And if my dogs lose the track, I can then point it out to them, and I seem super smart to my dogs. I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned a few things about how dogs build trust with each other. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to put this together as a human and how to emulate it and build trust with your dog, human to dog. If you're interested in learning about fearful and feral dogs and how to help them, I have many options. Please go to my website, hearttoheartcanine.com. Thanks.